Hello, and welcome to the Five Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. If you have not already, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast for wherever you're listening to this so that you get notified when a new episode drops every week. In this week's episode of the Five Core Life, host Will Moore sits down with Domenic Rinaldi, managing director of Sun Acquisitions. Together, they go deep into the career and finance core, discussing how to buy or sell a business. You'll also get tips for those looking to start a business about how to identify what types of businesses are better to start over others. Additionally, you'll learn what makes a business valuable and certain principles to go by when looking to purchase a business. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go. Everyone has the same 5 core areas of their life that ultimately determine how happy they'll be. Unfortunately, most of us have developed failure habits in each, and it's Will Moore's mission to help replace those with success habits to maximize momentum. After exiting his business for a combined 9-figure sum, Will learned it's not just about becoming an entrepreneur of your career, but an entrepreneur of the most important business you'll ever run, your life. And to crush it in your life requires firing on all cylinders in your 5 cores by continually taking action, building habits, and maintaining balance in each.
Glad you're here. So yeah, we had a really great talk on your pod. Why don't you tell everybody what your podcast is?
Right back here, M&A Unplugged. We started about a year ago, and your episode just got released the other day. It was great. It's getting some tremendous traction.
Wow, great.
And, it's all about trying to help people understand the process and prepare for buying or selling a business.
Yeah, so this is a really, really great thing. I was just talking, I'm not sure if you were on from the beginning, couldn't get on, but I was just kind of mentioning just the fact that COVID, kind of how the landscape is changing and how important it is to not just keep doing whatever you were doing, but to step back and sort of say, where are things going? Even if, we find a cure tomorrow. I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I think that there's certain things that have already been set in motion that are going to continue to be at trends, such as, working more from home, certain technologies like, Zoom, as you just mentioned, is a perfect example. Their stock yesterday. Did you see their stock yesterday?
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, insane. So, there's a balance between these things are definitely going to be trends, and you need to start looking at these things when you're looking at your future career and any businesses and these types of things, but also not just going with the hordes in terms of if you are buying stocks and stuff. I would definitely, I hate giving advice, but people don't jump in now.
Yeah.
I say that and then watch, it's going to go up another 800 points. But
yeah, right.
To me,
look at Tesla, right?
Tesla,
Who would've
Apple,
thought?
Zoom. You look at their stock. I was looking at some charts yesterday. You look at those stocks, and you look at their 20-year charts, and it's kind of like you just know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, right?
Yeah.
Things don't go along like this, for 15 years, and then all of a sudden just literally goes straight up, 1,000 times higher than they were, and expect that to keep happening. But what this is doing, it's shining a big spotlight, as you're saying, on the industry, the different industries that are killing it. The Amazons of the world, the Apples, technology, fast delivery, convenience. All of these things are so important and have been doing well, in recent years. But now it's like the spotlight's really on the fact that people, their home is their castle, especially now, having a yard, not commuting. So that ties into real estate acquisition.
Yep.
You've got the commercial real estate side is suffering quite a bit, at least, certain aspects of it, right? The places that require in person, the restaurants and then the malls and these types of things. But then you've got residential real estate is killing it. So why don't you give us your take kind of on all this stuff, on the market and, the stock market, the real estate market, and tell us some recent stories of some mergers and acquisitions and trends that you're seeing.
Yeah, so I'm not a markets guy, but what I will say is the S&P makes total sense to me. What's happening there, being led by tech. the Dow doesn't make any sense to me, because you see all of the hurt and pain that's going on out there. And what was it? United just announced 16,000 layoffs today, preceded by Coke the other day that said they're going to shed 30,000 jobs. And so I'm not understanding the Dow, but I certainly get the S&P. As far as M&A transactions go, incredible market right now. We have more buyers than we've ever had. And last year was a record year for us. And when I look at this year compared to last year, as far as the number of buyers that are actively looking to acquire a business, we're up almost 30% over last year. Wow. In the middle of a pandemic. But that's fueled by a couple of things. One, interest rates are incredibly low. Money is still out there. So the capital markets have remained wide open. Banks are lending on the right deals. And you have a lot of smaller and mid-sized businesses who are having a hard time growing. So acquisition is a great opportunity. And then you have the masses of people who are either underemployed, furloughed, or now losing their jobs, where business ownership has been on their bucket list. It's within reach. And with a little bit of capital, access to capital, these folks can now control their own destiny. And so I think it's sort of a perfect storm. Now, what you have to be able to find, though, on the other side is a good business to buy. And that you have to be careful about, because there are some businesses that are really hurting and others that are doing really well. So that's going to be the rub in all of this. But I think as far as activity goes, so long as the capital markets remain open, it's going to be an incredible ride for mergers and acquisitions.
So let's talk about these specific types of businesses that, you know, are the good ones to acquire versus the ones you want to stay away from. You know, kind of like we were talking about in the beginning. You know, I mentioned Warren Buffett, I believe, is the famous quote, "Buy when there's blood in the streets," right? So obviously some industries are getting hammered. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that M&As are up, you know, because it's like you said, money's dirt cheap, and there's a lot of opportunity out there for certain businesses. Like if you own a business and you look at your competition, and if there's a chance to pick up your competition quick in an industry like the restaurant industry or hospitality, or one of these ones that are really suffering, that could be a tremendous opportunity. At the same time, right, you got to be careful, because what are you picking up, right? Are you picking up more baggage that's only going to be in a sunken ship? Are you picking up some dinghies with holes in them? Right. Yep. Right. So what's your take on that?
You know, so my take, I'm gonna take it up a level. Pandemic, no pandemic, there are some guiding principles that I have that if I were personally in the market to buy a business, or anybody that I'm advising that's looking to buy a business, that I'd be looking for. So first off, I put high value on recurring revenue. So when you can find the business that's got recurring revenue and not necessarily repeat. So it is, subscription-based models are the perfect example, right? Where the money just comes in every month or every week, whatever the frequency is, followed by that, repeat businesses. So I think you want to be looking for businesses where there's a high degree of recurring revenue. And if you can't get that, at least repeat business. You want to look for businesses where it can't be offshored or outsourced. So the last thing you want to be doing is competing with China or India. And so you have to be careful about the industry you're entering, and can it be offshored? Because if it's offshored, they're going to kill you. They're going to crush you on cost of goods sold. And so I'd be very careful about that. The other thing is, I don't want to be in any business where I potentially am going to have to compete with Amazon or Google. And it's hard to know because they're going in so many different areas right now, right? So it's like, where's Amazon going to go next, right? But at least look at the footprint that they have today, and don't try to compete with them, because that you just don't have the pockets. So you want to be looking for businesses that are not going to be in that footprint, have recurring revenue, where the option to outsource is minimal or not there at all, And then the last piece of advice is look for a business that is going to excite you, because chances are you're going to run that business for the next 10 to 20 years. Do something that you have passion about, that you're going to love, that's not going to feel like a job.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a huge one, and that's an obvious one to people. Anybody that
Mm-hmm.
started their own business and has either gone, depending on which direction they've gone on that, whether it's been one that they weren't super passionate, they're like, uh-oh, I wake
Yeah.
up every day and I dread the day, versus, okay, I love what I'm doing. Things are tough right now, but I'm going to push through, because those tough times, whether you love the business or not, are going to be there. And
Right.
that pushing through has to be done one way or the other. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you're not loving what you're doing and are passionate about it, that pushing through just becomes insurmountable.
Very much so.
So
Very
with
much
these, I like your qualifications for businesses to pick up. So you want to give us some examples of either industries or even specific types of businesses?
You know, it's so buyer specific, right? But if I were to pick a couple off the top of my head, I love IT. I love managed services IT. So not project-based IT, but managed services where you have to keep that business up and running all the time. You get a fixed monthly fee, either per user or for the company, and we all need IT. We all need IT support, right? And so I love that business because it's got that recurring revenue. It's somewhat localized, believe it or not, because you sometimes have to be in there and doing some wiring work or things like that. So the option for it to be offshored is somewhat minimized, if you look at that. Another one that I really love, and it's not a sexy business at all, but if you think about it, it's got a ton of great attributes, which is HVAC, heating and ventilation and air conditioning. So the folks who come out and service, your heater and your air conditioning unit, whether it be at your residence or your business, not sexy at all, but it's recession proof. You have to get those units serviced, and no matter what, you should at least. If you don't, you're in jeopardy of having to replace it. It's not going to be offshored to China or India. I don't see Amazon and Google getting into the business. And you can build in service agreements so that you're getting a fixed monthly or a biannual payment in exchange for, set services. And so, again, it's not a sexy business. I don't think a lot of people would think that should be on their radar screen. But if you're handy and you like that kind of work, buying an existing operation that has trained employees in that sector, to me, you've got a business that you can really get your arms around and grow.
That's really, yeah, that is a good one. And you didn't even mention, but obviously there's debate out there. I'm of the believer in science that we are getting hotter as a planet. And I own 10 properties in Florida, rental properties, revenue generating properties. And over the last 5 years, I have spent more money on my air conditioning units than anything else, because they can't keep up. And even newer ones that I bought, I'm having issues with.
Yeah.
And it's just like my AC company is killing it off of me alone. I can only imagine.
And do you have a service agreement with them, Will? Do you have a service agreement where they come out at fixed times?
No, so I don't have a maintenance. So I actually used them to replace all of my units at one point, because I just got tired of having them come out. And then I did have it with one of my properties. I had a service agreement with.
Yeah.
But then in the end, I found it probably about the same, but for whatever reason in my mind, and maybe it's even a little bit more doing it the way I'm doing it. I feel like I benefit more. So because I got the new units, I don't have like a monthly. If I had the older units, I would definitely probably have stayed on that monthly, because it's like, or I think they were coming out every quarter, and they were looking at changing the filter, making sure that everything's working properly, servicing it. With the newer units, I felt like I didn't have to do that, although I have started having problems with them too. So maybe I need to do that. Yeah. Okay. So, it's an interesting time in the world, right? And so, you look at, right. I like one of the things wasn't really on my radar is things you can't outsource, because outsourcing has become such a huge thing, and that's a barrier of entry that is, you want to have that barrier of entry for your business where somebody can't just compete and then go send it out to super cheap, in another country. The restaurant delivery services, which is the business that I exited on, that kind of fits in that same category. You can't outsource your drivers picking up the food, and you can't outsource the restaurants. Yep. And you got to run a pretty tight ship and do it the right way. And people more and more, again, they're moving more towards staying home. And again, who knows how it's going to go in the future. But even before this COVID happened, people's homes are becoming more of their castles. They're spending more time in their homes. Their entertainment, they're eating, they're dining in more, right? Restaurants were already suffering. Movie theaters were already suffering. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how the movie theater industry plays out. They were already kind of hurting, and now here, is this going to be the one that's going to swipe the final peg out from underneath them? I know that I used to love going to movies. It was one of my favorite things, and I still love movies, but now we watch them all from home. I mean, you have all these streaming services, you've got your big screen TV, you've got your surround sound. It's like, yep, I don't need to go spend $20 a ticket to go. But although it's still a cool experience, so I hope it doesn't totally go away. But maybe
especially with those new theaters with the reclining chairs. I mean, they really did a nice job of trying to bring people back, but now you wonder what's going to happen long term. I think you're right.
Yeah, so maybe it's going to be like a consolidation where it's like one theater is going to buy all the other ones out, and it's just going to be like one per town, and it's just going to be like one big thing. Who knows? It'll be interesting.
Yep, absolutely.
So in terms of, your specific company, I mean, do you want to talk about some of the deals that you've done recently? So you give advice on how to do deals and the types of deals, and you and your company are also doing deals. Is that right?
No, we don't do deals for ourselves. So we either represent an owner of a business. Don't? Okay. Yeah, we'll either represent an owner of a business that wants to sell, or if you're a buyer that wants to acquire something, whether you're a first-time buyer or you're a business that wants to grow through acquisition, we can represent you and help you go acquire something. We've had it's been an unbelievable year. We've closed a pretty decent array of businesses. We just closed an IT business not too long ago. Yesterday, we closed a heavy equipment business, like earth mover kind of stuff. We had a public company come in and buy this private company that had been around for 70 or 80 years. Earlier in the year, we sold an education business. They sold a curriculum that was a K through 12 curriculum. And we sold that business to a private equity group. We did a healthcare transaction. So we handle a broad range of industries. I think the only industries we don't really service are agriculture and energy. But outside of that, we've done transactions in every other industry.
And so we always talk about habits on this show, right? So obviously we're focused today on we have the 5 cores. Career and finances is one of those cores. We're focusing in on kind of, a side that not everybody can relate to, right? Not everybody's in a position with mergers and acquisitions, but I do think it relates to everybody in terms of the same types of, we talk about habits on the show, the same types of trends, the same types of things that you're looking to do, with a merger and acquisition. It's kind of it translates to your life and the different areas of your life. And it's all about kind of being aware of what's going on around you, trying to think ahead of the game, trying to think 2 steps ahead of your competition and other people and what you're doing and why you're doing it and what are the actions you're going to take to get to where you're going. And to me, it really is an interesting time with business. It's sort of like there's this frothy energy right now with that's reminiscing to me from the real estate crash in 2007, or I should say the real estate boom, then eventually crashed, the .com crash, and it's like this insane excitement and all these things are happening, I guess. And it sounded like you think that the S&P 500 is where it should be and it's going to keep doing that. So I guess in terms of real estate, mergers and acquisitions, values, do you feel like everything's going to eventually kind of have a correction here, or do you feel like it's going to continue? Certain businesses and industries are going to really just keep skyrocketing, and then the other ones are really going to fall by the wayside. Nope, we're lost you there. Can you hear us? Hello? Darn, we're having some internet connectivity issues. Yeah, barely. You're kind of going in and out. Do you have internet connectivity issues where you are?
No, not at all. I've got a high speed, and I'm usually pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm not really.
No.
You there? Okay,
Yep.
now, I mean, we can barely see you. You're real fuzzy. Are you having internet connection issues where you are?
No, not at all.
Or do you have a solid connection?
Yeah, I have a solid connection.
That's strange.
Yeah. I can move.
That's weird. Okay.
Want me to move somewhere?
Sure. Maybe try. So, okay, well, I don't know if you heard my question.
Is that any better?
You're still fuzzy, but I can hear you a lot clearer, so that's good. Going into the matrix, somebody said. Yeah, now you're kind of going out.
Hey, is that any better, Will?
Yep, that's a little better. Yeah.
Okay.
So did you catch my question, or did you not hear it? Darn. Okay. So I'm so sorry. I think we're gonna have to cut. it. We're just having a really bad connection here. Yeah, I don't know what's happening either.
Hey, Will, can you hear me?
All right, now you're clear. Well, let's try this one more time. I just want to get, just so we don't frustrate everybody. Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm not blaming your side, but we may have to cut it if the quality keeps going in and out like this. But let's try that one more time. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
So what I was saying is I'm not an economist, but my personal opinion on this is unless we continue with some stimulus, I think we're headed for a rocky road, because I think a lot of what's happened in the market has been fueled by all the money that's, all the liquidity that's been pushed into the market and the stimulus money that we've sent to individuals. So consumer spending has stayed strong, businesses have stayed afloat, but I think without more money, we're going to start to see small businesses, bankruptcies skyrocket. I think we already sort of know what's happening on the commercial realty side. And then, the consumer, if we continue with layoffs, and we're now starting to see them every day and not small numbers, right?
Right.
If we continue to see those sorts of layoffs without stimulus money hitting the individuals, I think we're headed for a correction. So a lot of ifs in there, but I think the possibility for a severe correction is in front of us for sure.
Right. So everybody just, be careful and I guess if you're thinking about either starting a business, buying a business, like we were saying earlier, there's certain factors that are involved you need to pay attention to, barriers of entry that you want to try to, like you're saying, don't do something we think Amazon or Google might be getting into, although even HVACs aren't safe. I can see they're taking over the homes now, right? And it's like the smart home. I can see them being like, hey, here's your smart AC heater, and you talk to Alexa and you control it. Who knows? But
didn't Amazon just announce yesterday or 2 days ago they got FAA approval for drones? And so now it's not going to go into application for a while, but it's not too far-fetched to think they can deliver meals.
Absolutely.
So who knows where that goes, right?
That's exactly right. Right. In my industry, I think there's going to be even more roll up. So Grubhub just got bought by Just Eat out of Europe, and Uber Eats just bought Postmates.
Right.
There's only a couple of huge players left, and then if somebody like Amazon decides, okay, we want to dominate this now, they'll just take everybody out, right?
Possibly.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And Uber's not doing well with their ride, the ride sharing part of their business, or excuse me, the ride hauling.
If what happened out in California is going to start to happen in other states, and there's slowly, a shutdown across the country, right? So That's
Right.
some
But
other
I mean, talk
policy.
about contactless delivery, like drones, like you want to talk about nailing that. Like if, you know, obviously, God forbid there's more of these types of outbreaks in the future, though I've heard that this could become more common,
Yes.
just because of the way things are set up. And you know, if that does happen, you know, contactless drone delivery, holy cow.
Yep.
Talk about a winner. And right,
Yeah.
I remember when Amazon came out with that video about, I want to go 4 or 5 years ago, and they had this like drone delivering something, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, is this a publicity stunt? Is this
Right.
real? Like, are they
Right.
actually planning on doing this? And they wrote this like very simple statement, which I thought was genius. Jeff Bezos, say what you will about him, he's a very smart guy.
Oh yeah.
And I like the way he, you know, he runs, he asks the fundamental questions, and he does keeps things very simple. And at the end of the day, it's like, what do the customers want? How can we give it to them at any cost, even if we're losing money in the short run? Because in the long run, we know it's going to pay off. And that's how every business should think. But unfortunately, most are like, okay, how can we make money in the short run and screw over our customers and not worry about that? But so, you know, right. And then now here we are 5 or so years later, and it's like, oh yeah, he had made that very simple statement, like, no, it's legit. We're working on it. And then the FAA came out and they're like, oh, well, you know, we're not ready for all that. But now we're getting there. And if they can prove that it's safe, and with technology, drones have been around for a while, and I bet you they can prove pretty well that, you know, look, we've got GPS coordinates. These things are safe. They're not going to run into each other. I guess the only thing I would think they have to figure out, if they do crash into each other or something, like, what's the safety mechanism so it doesn't fall on somebody's head, right? Like, what, is there an airbag that gets deployed and they're just in this bubble? Like, what is that? But
well, geez, if the drones,
there's no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah,
you absolutely are. Those sci-fi movies you see where you got the, you know, and they'll eventually be flying cars too, right? It's going to be cars. It's going to be packages. Right. It's going to be wild, man. You know, I mean, you look at where we were 100 years ago, and my grandfather went to school on a horse and buggy. Yeah. And, you know, that's my grandfather. That's 2 generations. He went to school in a horse and buggy. And now where we are. What's going to be in another 100 years if we make it that far?
Right. Well, unfortunately, that's a whole other issue, right?
That's a whole other issue. So let's get back to some of those mergers and acquisitions. Do you want to tell us, you've done a ton of deals. How many deals total have you done?
We're approaching 400. We should eclipse 400 this year.
So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first one is going to be, what is maybe your top 1 or 2 deals that you did that are either a very interesting story or just something that you think the viewers would want to hear about to learn a lesson from on how another company did it. And then let's start with that, and then we'll go from there.
You know, interesting, you know, I have so many stories. You know, I think the more interesting ones are the ones that didn't get done and why they didn't get done. Mm-hmm. And I can think of a story a number of years ago where an owner who had a distribution business hired us to sell their business. And this is not an overnight thing. Like, this takes time. To sell a business can take easily, you know, 5 to 12 months, depending on the complexity and the size and so on and so forth. And we prepped this business. We took it out to market, and we lined up a good number of buyers. And we got down the path, and we got multiple offers. The owner signed the deal. We get into diligence. We're probably 3/4 of the way through due diligence, and the owner decided that they didn't want to sell any longer. Cool. And it's a cautionary tale, because what it really points out is, I always talk about, there's 3 legs of the stool when you're looking to sell your business. The first leg is, are you financially ready? Do you have your house in order financially? And do you need the money from the sale to support what you're going to go do next? Or do you have enough money and this is just gravy? Is your estate in order? Have you minimized taxes? So that's number 1. Number 2 is your business ready? Have you done all the things to maximize value and minimize risk around your business? And
That's
then the
going to,
third,
sorry to interrupt you. That's going to be my follow-up question that I was going to ask. What are the types of things that businesses can best do to
I'm
prepare?
happy
So
to come back
we'll
and
hold
talk
that
about
thought, but
that.
yes, continue
And
on.
I can share a story related to that as well.
Perfect.
And then the third one is, are you personally ready to go do whatever it is that you want to do next? And it's this personal readiness that people really have to dig deep on, because there are studies out there that state that over 75% of people who own a business and sell it are remorseful after the sale. And it had nothing to do with how much money they received for the business, and everything to do with they didn't have the next thing that they were going to go do in life. And that's exactly what happened to our client. He really didn't have the next thing. And as the sale approached, he just, that reality started to sink in, and he just couldn't let go. And that was a painful lesson, because there's a lot of time and money that he spent to not get a transaction done. It was the right thing for him, but it was painful.
So I was going to say, how did this story end? Did he continue to thrive and do well? Is he still in business?
Still continues to this day. Business is still going. I think he's hit a little bit of a bump in the road here with the pandemic. So he's.
What's his industry? Do you mind if I ask?
Yeah. So he's durable goods distribution. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right now. That's a tricky place to be.
Well, it depends on where you are in the durable goods. There are some that are doing incredibly well, and there are others that have really suffered. So.
Right. I was talking to somebody the other day. It's kind of like whatever your industry was before this pandemic happened. It's like was kind of like hitting the lottery or not hitting the lottery. Right. It's like I just happen to be in this industry that's crushing it right now, or even durable goods. It's like I happen to be selling these durable goods, but not these ones, and these ones are getting. It's like. And that's taken a toll on a lot of people's mindsets. It's like, God,
I'll give you an illustration of that real quickly. We just looked at the books and records on a sporting goods manufacturing distribution business. Their business is up 500%. 500. And you know that because you can't go buy a bike, you can't go buy a canoe, you can't buy you can't buy anything sporting related, right? Everybody's picked. They can't even keep their.
My wife tried to get us a pool this summer for the kids in the backyard, and it was like, she found one on eBay for 10 times the price that we would have paid at Costco. It was insane. She's like, I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Crazy, right?
And bikes, everybody's getting out and biking. It really is. It's very interesting. So let's get back to that second part of your answer, where you were talking about what businesses can do to best prepare for a sale.
So the way that I approach this is every business has what we call key value drivers. Could be anywhere between 6 to 12. And some are common between businesses and some are specific to the industry that you're in, but you have key value drivers. And understanding how your business is operating against those key value drivers is really important, because that's where you can maximize value and minimize risk. And so let me give you an example of that. One quick example is client concentration. If any one client represents more than 30% of your revenues, there's a big risk there. So another one is, you as the owner, are you the business? How much of the business do you manage versus other people in the business? And the less you're involved in the business day to day, the more valuable your business is. And so when we look at companies, we score them against all of these key value drivers. And that's how ultimately we arrive at where is the business on a value spectrum, and what's the likely walk away for somebody.
Nice. Well, and I like that comment you made. The more you're involved in your business, the less valuable it is. I want to repeat that, because, it goes back to a book I read very early on that changed my entire mindset and is what sparked my growth in business. A book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Have you read it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just remember, what stood out to me at the time was, the more you're involved, the more you're working for every dollar, the worse off you're going to be, right? And it was all about setting up systems and creating that passive income. He called it PIG, passive income generators. You know, whatever your business is, it's working for you whether you're awake or not. You know, you can be sleeping, and that's the type of business you want to be thinking about and having the systems in place where that money's coming in, whether you're actively involved or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, first you have to be actively involved, but you want to start thinking about how to remove yourself.
How do you remove yourself? That's exactly right. And I'll share a quick story if you got a second for me to do that. About a client who really didn't properly prepare. And again, it wasn't a great outcome. It's a good end to the story, but it wasn't a great outcome during the transaction. The business had been around for 60 years. They built it up, and they wanted to take it to market. We took it out after a lengthy auction process. We have a buyer. We're in due diligence. But it turned out that the company had over 6,000 SKUs in inventory, and they had never taken a physical inventory. So the buyer and the bank was suspect about their financials, and they couldn't complete a quality of earnings on the business until they did a physical and a quality of earnings. So they had to stop the process essentially for what turned out to be like 60 days. Because 6,000 SKUs and all the work that goes into that. So they did all the work. We stopped the process for 60 days. They get it done. They get the quality of earnings. It all winds up being okay from that perspective. We're about 45 days away from closing, and I get a call one night. The business burnt to the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Now, you wouldn't want that to happen to a new owner. Like, you wouldn't want them to buy the business and have the business burn to the ground. But the business would have been sold. They would have been multimillionaires if they sold this business. And literally, they were left with a business that burnt to the ground and no sale. Good news.
Well, didn't they have insurance?
They did. They had all kinds of insurance. So the good news there is, they were able to buy a new building, move the business, and after many years, rebuilt it.
Yeah, right. So, preparing, good one. So we're starting to lose you again. This is a good time to probably cut off. This was a fantastic one, Domenic. Thank you. This isn't something we normally get into too much on this show, but you know, again, the world, any world that people aren't familiar with, and you can take lessons from in life, and you know what I got from a lot of the stuff you're saying, for those that aren't in mergers and acquisitions or aren't looking to do that, is, first of all, if you are thinking about starting a business, or if you do currently own a business, you know, these are things you should be thinking about preparing, and the steps that you mentioned to take. And by the way, where can people find you to get your advice, and so that you can help if they do have a business and they want to sell or buy one? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing is to just reach me on my email, drinaldi@sunacquisitions.com.
Okay. Perfect. And yep. And then, so yeah, I guess at the end of the day, we all need to take, you know, we need to take that, like we said at the beginning of the show, that 10,000 foot view, and things are changing rapidly in the world, whether it's in your relationships, you know, whether it's in your, you know, your mindset. People's mindsets are completely getting flipped upside down. And then of course in the career and finances. And at the end of the day, you just want to take that step back, and you want to prepare, and you want to try to think 2 steps ahead of where you're going to end up, and what are the steps you want to do to get there, whether it's exiting a business, having a successful relationship, you know, getting into the shape you want, and whatnot. So thank you, my man, for sharing some of these wisdoms. This was fantastic. I appreciate it, Domenic.
That's it for the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not already, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast so that you get notified when an episode drops every week. If you haven't joined the 5 Core Life Facebook group yet, I encourage you to also join that and see what all the fuss is about. There's some really great, awesome content there designed to get your momentum going, including a monthly giveaway where you can win a complimentary coaching call with the Will Moore himself. The Facebook group is currently the only place to get Will's dedicated attention and support on your 5 Core journey. If you're feeling stuck or just want someone to cheer you on, that's the place that you need to be. There's nothing like a community of people on the same journey to get you fired up, kicking butt, and taking names. So come join us.
Well, get moving, gain momentum, join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.